And really quick, before I get into this video, you know, I'm looking at my charts and stuff, following the pay coin. And you'll notice from my last video, I was talking about how there's orders right at the top for 0.03 of an Ethereum. They're now 0.04, so they're climbing. And the higher they climb, the more money someone would get selling pay tokens. Got a sneaky suspicion that this pay token is going to be very similar to Veritasium. I don't know that it'll hit the numbers Veritasium has hit already, being 120 to 170 something dollars. But I'm just thinking to myself, okay, so what? Maybe it goes to 50. And then doing the math, you know, the same math I keep talking about. If you had 10,000 of these tokens, which is somewhere around $8,000 worth, 10,000 times $50, $500,000. Yes, that's correct. $500,000. You know that house I keep looking at? I'm telling you, I'm trying to, you know, we've got a contract on it. I'm thinking in an instance like this, that thing could be paid off. More than paid off, to be honest with you. But let's all not forget, the taxman cometh. Capital gains, short-term capital gains. Ooh-wee. On a $500 million profit. Ooh-wee. But are you going to be real upset if you got to pay Uncle Scam some hefty taxes when you still sitting on, again, it's like you just won the lottery. Seriously, that's what it's like. So if anyone has any of these interesting stories about pay token, hit me up. Send me my little emails, you know, realistnews.net, contact button. And just let me know some of your stories as this thing unfolds. Again, I think we're looking at another Veritasium, keeping in mind it was April 25th when Veritasium came out. Those who capitalized the first week were able to get some of those things at about $2 a piece. Me, I got in about the third week, around June something, you know, third week after that. So it was about midway through, oh, it's not June, May, midway through May or so, I think is when I got in, or around the 20th maybe. And that's what I was telling you guys, hey, I'm trying to get into this, you know, talk to you guys about getting into it too. Some of you did, some of you didn't. And in other words, it took about 2 months, I'd say, for this thing to really say, oh my gosh, look what it's selling for. So in my mind, what is pay tokens going to be selling for in a month to 2 months from now? If I'm already seeing what I'm seeing today, which I've already showed you, I'm kind of scared to see where it's going to go in a good way. Anyways, on to the videos of, you know, banking and crises. My other forte. We just talked about, I did, on a Friday, as in last Friday, a couple days ago, as they always do on a Friday, these banks failed. 2 banks in Italy failed. Webbot prediction, cha-ching. Bail in, bail out. What happened? Italian taxpayers to foot a 17 billion euro bill as Rome bails out another 2 insolvent banks. Hey, I got a question for you. How many other insolvent banks, and I'm just talking Italy this time, in Italy do you think there are? In, you know, Contagion, when one bank fails, and another one fails, and another one fails, and another one fails, another bank fails to dust. So this particular article is from Wall Street, Don Quajones. Contagion from the 2 Friday night bank collapses in Italy. This is how desperate the Italian banking crisis has become. When things get serious in the EU, laws get bent and loopholes get exploited. That is what is happening right now in Italy, where the banking crisis has reached a tipping point. The ECB, European Central Bank, together with the Italian government, like 2 peas in a pod, have just this weekend to resolve Banco Popular di Vicenza and Veneto Banca, 2 zombie banks that the ECB on Friday night ordered to be liquidated. Unlike Monte dei Paschi di Siena, they will not be bailed out with public funds only. Senior bondholders and depositors will be protected. Shareholders and subordinate bondholders will lose their shirts. However, as the German daily Welt points out, subordinate bondholders at Monte dei Paschi di Siena had billions of euros at stake, much of it owned by its own retail customers who'd been sold these bonds instead of savings products such as CDs. So for political reasons, they were bailed out. Junior bonds play a smaller role at the two Veneto-based banks. According to the Welt, the two banks combined have $1.33 billion at face value in junior bonds outstanding. They last traded between 1 cent and 3 cents on the euro. So basically worthless. Only about 100 million euros were sold to their own customers, not enough to cause a political ruckus in Italy, so they will be crushed. The good assets and the liabilities, such as the deposits, will be transferred to a competing bank. According to a rescue plan apparently drawn up by investment bank Rothschild that surfaced a few days ago, Intesa Sao Paulo, Italy's second largest bank, would get these good assets and the deposits liabilities for the total sum of $1, as in €1. While all the toxic assets, the non-performing loans, would be shuffled off to a state-owned bad bank and thus the taxpayer. According to the Italian daily Il Sole 24 Ore, the bad bank would be left holding over 20 billion euros of festering assets. So my question is, a big bank gets to take, and this was a pretty big bank as it was, but a bigger bank gets to take the goodies, gets to pick clean the goodies off this bank for $1. What could you get for $1? $1. How about a bank's good assets? And the garbage, we won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. You're going to put that on the taxpayer bank, and they're going to fund it. What do I always tell you about the big banks? Heads we win, tails you lose. Every effing time. However, if that bothers you, just get into cryptocurrencies right now. Everybody's making a fortune. Everybody is making a fortune, especially on these ICOs. Who cares about your pension, your 401k? It's meaningless when you can turn a few $1,000s into $50, $60, $80, $100,000 like that with these cryptos. Concerned about your pension? No longer be concerned about it. Try to find a way to cash out. Any 401k, anything you got, cash out of that sucker. Take a loan against it. Can't cash out? Take a loan, maximum values, please. I want my full 50%, whatever it is, loan against my own 401k, and I want it, my money, and I need it now, J.G. Wentworth said. My 401k, and I need it now. Well, you can only have half of it, and we're going to lend it to you, and you're going to pay it back to yourself. Okay, that's fine, because I'm about to flip that 401k money, if I had one. I mean, I don't. Telling this as if I was you. You'd flip that right into those cryptos, and try to get in on one of these decent ICOs, and ride that horse till it dies, and make an absolute fortune killing, paying back all your 401k instantly if you wanted to, and having a whole bunch profit left over. Banks, let them fail. Cryptos is going to be the new banking system. It appears, does it not? So, anyways, update Sunday afternoon. Update. Remember. That's the sound to Unsolved Mysteries from the 80s and 90s. And they'd always have, a show about missing person or whatever happened, this crazy story. And then update. After airing this show, 2 days later, young little Tiffany was found by a passerby. Update. Saturday afternoon. June 25th. The Italian government decided to commit $17 billion in taxpayer funds to bail out senior bondholders and depositors. This includes a €5 billion capital injection for Intesa, which is getting the good assets and liabilities such as deposits. The €5 billion is to protect Intesa against losses from those assets. Prohibited state aid under EU rules? No problem. It has now been cleared by the EU Commission. It is testament to just how desperate the situation has become in Italy's banking crisis. The country's largest lender, UniCredit, is in no position to help out. It had to raise 13 billion euros of new capital earlier this year just to keep itself afloat. So basically, again, like I said, the prohibited state aid rule in the EU rules, European Union rules, no problem. It has been cleared by the EU Commission. We can break the rule. So tell me again why all these countries want to stay. Brexit, Britain leaving. See you guys later. You can deal with that. Oh, bail-ins and all. That's all. See you later. See, if I were Britain, that's what I'd be saying right now. See, that's why we want out. We don't want to be helping pay for that garbage. We don't want any part of that. We're leaving. Good day, sir. And as the webbot said, Italy's going to, you may hear some news in the future here, not too far out, that Italy's going to be doing an Italexit. And then Greek, a Grexit, etc. Which I would have already asked them a long time ago, what the hell are you guys waiting for? Especially Greece. You've sold off all your assets, privatized everything. They're gone now. You have nothing. Whether the deal with Intesa is still possible after the ECB's decision to liquidate the banks and what form this deal, if any, will take, and how much the taxpayer will have to fork over, and how much to sugarcoat this in the most palatable terms is what the Italian government is currently trying to hammer out in its emergency meeting. So how did it get this far? Italy's government has tried just about everything to save its banks. First, it set up a bad bank called Atlanti, but the Luxembourg-based fund was unable to raise enough funds to make any real difference. So the government set up another one, Atlanti 2. Oh, that too ran out of money. In the absence of anything resembling a functioning market for deteriorated credit or bad bank with enough funds to make a real difference, Italy's banks were unable to offload their estimated 360 billion euros of non-performing loans, many of them with very weak, if any remaining, collateral underpinning them. Yet on average, they are marked at around 50 cents on the euro. In addition, Italy's court system makes collecting on collateral very difficult. And it takes many years as the funds have found out that bought non-performing loans. Hence the refusal by market players to buy non-performing loans now. The next partial solution to Italy's banking problem involved trying to save its most troubled lender, Monte dei Paschi. To stave off collapse, it hired the JP Morgan Chase, an Italian investment bank, Mediobanca, to help raise 5 billion euros of private capital. But that didn't work either, with investors refusing to play along, having already been burnt twice in 2 previous capital expansions. And I'm sure they probably feel like George Bush Jr. said one time, screw me once, shame on you. Screw me twice. Well, yeah, I gotta screw me twice. In December last year, JP Morgan Chase gave up on any hopes of raising new cash from the private sector. The Italian government responded by announcing it would recapitalize the banks with 20 billion euros of public funds. There were 2 problems with this plan. First, 20 billion was never going to be enough to save the banking system. And second, bailing out the banks without at least bailing in some of their creditors was no longer allowed by EU law. But when things get serious in the EU, laws get bent. That's where that's, oh, go get bent. Is that where that comes from? Go get bent. Jay Snip, go get bent, man. I don't like you. Oh, maybe that's where it came from, the EU. Go get bent. The laws get bent. At the beginning of June, the European Commission gave MPS a provisional, is that Monte Paschi? What is MPS? Whatever. A provisional green light to begin offloading 26 billion euros of bad loans onto the Atlanti 2 fund. The non-performing loans would be securitized and transferred to an ad hoc vehicle at a value close to 20% of their face value. The assets would be divvied up between the Atlanti Rescue Fund and interested private investors. If there are any interested private investors. If the transaction is completed by June 28th, which is 2 days from now, 8.8 billion of public funds will be released to plug MPS's gaping capital shortfall. The European Commission also agreed that all investors who had bought MPS Junior bonds would be eligible for a taxpayer-funded refund. Isn't that amazing? Heads they win, tails you lose. And they got the CEO making his millions and his golden parachute when he leaves, and all of the upper management with the same type of pay plan and retirement plans and healthcare benefits. And you schmuck taxpayers, you're going to pay for it. You Italian schmuck taxpayers. You muppets, as the banks like to call us. You muppets. Give us our money. But that's my money. Well, it's our money now. We need it now. But two of the private investors, hedge funds, Fortress and Elliott, walked away from the negotiating table in a dispute over the sales terms, which likely means that even at 80% markdown on MPS's non-performing loans may not be enough to attract private investors, as I just speculated. If they don't come back, Monte dei Paschi will have only one willing investor to turn to, Atlanti. In other words, back to square one. The hedge fund's withdrawal prompted fears that it could jeopardize not only the government's effort to save Monte dei Paschi, but also Banca Popolare di Vicenza and Veneto Banca. That has now happened. Contagion at work, and the risk of further contagion is still huge. There are dozens of small or mid-sized institutions in similar shape as Banca Popolare di Vicenza and Veneto Banca. While the problem of what to do with MPS is still not resolved, taxpayers are already on the hook for a banking crisis that was caused by years of reckless and in some cases criminal mismanagement. Now the ECB's decision to wind down two banks in an orderly manner may end up triggering the disorderly failure of others. And if that picks up momentum, all bets would be off. I wonder, oh, I wonder whose bank's gonna fail next. Yeah, exactly. Like dominoes. They're falling over like dominoes. And over here on this side of the pond, Fed, we're gonna raise the rates. We did. We're gonna do it. Do it again. Remember the old Mountain Dew commercials? Did it. Do it again. Doing it tomorrow. Fed, you gonna raise rates? Did it. Doing it again. Doing it tomorrow, man. But you're raising rates into the apocalypse. You're not supposed to raise them into the apocalypse. You're supposed to start lowering them in preparation for the apocalypse. Financial. Nope. We're going to raise right into that baby to help bring it on. Which reminds me of my next video I need to do. Be an interesting Zero Hedge article. You know, QE, QE1, QE2, quantitative easing. Get ready for QT1. QT1, not QE. QT1. This would be an interesting video. It's coming up next.